Shanna Gardner was born into wealth. Her parents had money, lots of it. She was also raised in a devout Mormon home. From the outside, it seemed like she was living a very stable, normal life. Then she met a man named Jared Bridegan during a trip to Florida. Jared was also a devout Mormon. They fell in love and got married in Utah in 2010. They began their lives together in Connecticut and began raising their twins. But then they moved to Jared's hometown in Jacksonville, Florida for the health of one of their children. It was here in Florida where life changed for Shanna. Marital problems, allegations of cheating, and actions very inconsistent with her Mormon upbringing. This led to a divorce. This also led to endless battles concerning the twins. Shanna did remarry. She met Mario Fernandez Saldana at the gym where she worked out. They fell in love and got hitched. Jared also got remarried and started a family with his new wife. Then Jared was murdered. Shanna skipped the funeral and moved to Washington State without her new husband. Then the killer, Henry Tenen, was arrested. Mario was then arrested. And finally, Shanna was arrested, charged with murder, facing a potential death sentence. How was Jared murdered, and what is Shanna's alleged connection to the killing? We'll take a closer look as we investigate the murder of Jared Bridegan. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thanks so much for joining us. This is an incredibly tragic story. There are children without their father. Jared Bridegan was a dad. First and foremost, a father, a family guy. Just wanted to be there for all the moments, did everything for his children. Unfortunately, his first marriage didn't work. Shanna Gardner, his ex, and he had a long battle that was just ongoing year after year after year, dealing with the raising of their twins. 7 years of litigation. Now, Shanna Gardner is funded by a trust fund. Parents extremely wealthy, and she's a trust fund child. And a grown-up child, but has a trust fund. So she could fund this endless litigation. So it would never stop. Because sometimes that tempers people a little bit. Yeah, I gotta pay for a lawyer. Not a problem. Not a problem for Shanna. Shanna, when she got remarried, didn't have any more children, but she had primary custody of the twins, Jared's children. But there's a third person involved in this entire story, and his name is Henry Tenen. He's the first one arrested. And now Henry Tenen, all the way to the left, Mario Fernandez Saldana, the second husband of Shanna Gardner, who is on the right. These are the three who have been charged in the plot to murder Jared Bridegan. Henry Tenen is cooperating. Shanna Gardner is facing a potential death sentence. So how exactly did this murder go down? Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson went to the neighborhood, went to the scene of the murder.
Jared was not a victim of any robbery gone wrong or carjacking. Police say he was the victim of a targeted attack on a one-way road he traveled often. Jared came across a tire police say was intentionally placed right here in the middle of the road in the sanctuary neighborhood of Jacksonville Beach, Florida. That's when someone came out of these woods and ambushed the father of four, killing him on the spot.
I've got some more details from that murder for you. Every other Wednesday night, Bridegan, that's Jared, had dinner with his twins from his marriage with Gardner and brought his 2-year-old daughter so she could get to know her half-siblings. On the night of the murder, Bridegan dropped the twins off at his ex-wife's home in Jacksonville Beach after dinner and then headed back to his own home in Nocatee. Gardner and Fernandez Saldana both knew of Bridegan's particular driving pattern and routine at approximately the same time every Wednesday, quote, date night, as the routine was a habit between the two couples for the previous 8 months. So it's no accident. This isn't random. This is a pattern that was predictable. He would drop the kids off and then drive back home. So they knew where to drop that tire so the car would stop. And then Henry Tenen could jump out and murder Jared Bridegan. Want to bring in our guest to go through this murderous plot and the evidence associated with us. Joining us, retired police commander, host of the Profiling Evil podcast, and author of the book Deceived. Mike King is with us. Also joining us, private investigator and founder of Victim News Online, Erica Morse. Great to see you both. Looking at, and again, they're getting the story from Henry Tenen, right? And they're developing it from some other evidence as well. But it sort of makes sense to me, Mike, the story that's being told on how they could pull this off, because it's a repeated pattern for 8 months. They know where he's going to be. They know which way he's driving. They know which way he's driving out.
Yeah, you know, we always talk about this idea that past behavior is predictive of future behavior. Every single time Jared dropped those kids off, he drove that same one-way street. So it's not a two-way street, Vinnie. It's a one-way street, a one-lane street, and it creates a perfect opportunity to create that guise of something in the roadway, a tire in this particular case, blocking it, forcing him to stop and get out. And it doesn't make sense to me that the killer in this case was galumping along and happened to be at that very place at that very moment in time, especially with his relationship with people tied more intimately to Jared Bridegan.
Erica Morse, what I think about is everyone knew, I don't know if Henry Tenen knew, but the other two knew there was going to be a 2-year-old girl in that car as well at that moment, the daughter. And you think about how, if this is true, right, got to prove it, but if this is true, how cold and calculated this is, knowing that there's going to be a 2-year-old girl witnessing her father get executed.
I know you're going to get into the digital stuff later, Vinnie, but the level of depravity is what really struck me in this, knowing that there was a child present in the back seat. Now, I'm going to go one step further to what Mike just said. It's not just also knowing that he was going to be there on this specific time on a one-lane road, knowing the routine, but because of 7 years of contentious litigation, I suspect that custody order was extremely precise, as we often see in family court issues. Not just, the standard order for a lot of times for fathers is every other weekend and Wednesday evenings. And that's just kind of typical in the court setting. So that court order most likely had a specific time attached to it, that the twins were supposed to be dropped off, leaving a very small window of opportunity and the ability to not get caught. They didn't want that tire being left in the road for 30 minutes, an hour. This was a prime opportunity, and that, to me, narrows the timeline considerably.
Absolutely. Mike King, Erica Morse staying with us. When we come back, we're going to take a look at Shanna Gardner. What is her alleged connection to the murder and the killer?
Did a customs agent commit cold-blooded murder?
Marsha Thompson is accused of fatally shooting her husband as he's lying on a couch.
She's claiming self-defense, alleging that Terry Thompson repeatedly threatened to kill her.
So what really happened inside this home?
Now, a jury will decide the fate of this law enforcement officer.
And Court TV will bring it all to you.
The Abused Wife or Murderer Trial. Weekday mornings, only on Court TV.
morning, a Fourth Circuit grand jury indicted Shanna Gardner for first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, solicitation to commit first-degree murder, and child abuse. This investigation has uncovered the truth of Jared's murder. Henry Tennant did not act alone, Mario Fernandez did not plan alone, and Shanna Gardner's indictment acknowledges her central and key role in the cold, calculated, and premeditated murder of Jared Bridegan.
One at a time, the arrests were made. First, Henry Tennant, the man who admitted committing the actual killing, the actual murder. Then it was her new husband, Mario Fernandez, and then Shanna Gardner, the last one to be arrested in all of this. Now, the challenge here is that Tennant is connected to Fernandez, but not directly connected necessarily to Shanna Gardner. Fernandez had a relationship with him prior to this happening. Shanna didn't. However, what is the evidence now that is connecting her to this entire plot? Let's take a listen to Detective Jones talking about how Henry Tennant got paid.
Who are the title holders or principals on these articles of organization?
Both Ms. Gardner and Mr. Fernandez are listed as managing members, or which would be considered owners of the LLC.
And the LLC is First Choice Home Rentals. What was the business of this LLC as incorporated?
The business was established to manage their rental property holdings.
This document is an annual report. What does that mean?
This is just a document that's filed every year to basically let the state know that this is still an active company, and then to make any changes to the ownership or management of the company.
And this was filed in the upper right-hand corner, January 28, 2022, which was a few weeks before the murder of Jared Bridegan. And again, at the bottom, who are the still owners or signatories on this LLC?
The listed owners are Shanna Gardner and Mario Fernandez.
And this is another exhibit on or another page on Composite Exhibit 3, again showing that the First Choice Home Rentals LLC was getting what appears to be monthly transfers from the Shanna Gardner Irrevocable Trust.
This check is on April 6th for $5,000 written to Henry Tennant from First Choice Home Rentals.
And in the subject line, it says, Kickstarter, good luck. Can you describe for the court, based on your conversations with Mr. Tennant, what this check was actually for?
Mr. Tennant stated this was the first of many payments that was supposed to be an investment into his pallet company, which was actually payment for the homicide.
Okay, so we're looking at this LLC they set up. Shanna is obviously funding it with her trust fund money. And that's how the payments are being made. Mike, what do you think about this connection to get Shanna into this plot?
I like this. They're showing the income coming from the irrevocable trust that her family has set up, but then they're showing it come into this joint account, then going out and paying the shooter. And unless that shooter's established a business that required 10 grand to get started, that's going to be a really tall mountain for them to climb as far as why were they giving him that kind of money. The relationship wasn't them paying him. It should have been him paying for a place to live.
Let's take a listen now to Detective Jones talking about text messages between Shanna Gardner and a friend.
There were two phrases that kind of were a continuation during all of their text messages. One of those referred to as a casserole, also aka funeral potatoes, or then there was the phrase of doing magic. Sorry.
So sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. Let's talk about the funeral potatoes casserole. Did these words, were they used frequently in conversations between Shanna Gardner and Kim Jensen?
Yes, they were.
And in what context were they used?
In reference to the death of Jared.
What direction does this conversation take?
It's essentially just more about ways that Ms. Gardner is unhappy with Mr. Bridegan, that she would like for him no longer to be alive, and then they talk about casserole, and then they will move on to other things as far as how to cause his death.
What direction does this conversation take?
Basically, Ms. Jensen's reaching out to Ms. Lee and stating, hey, Shanna needs a guy who does permanent disappearing acts. And she says that she needs a magician for stupid, referring to Mr. Bridegan, and ask if she knows anyone who can basically accomplish this.
Erica Morse, to me, this is powerful as well. You're talking about the whole concept of this case is someone with money has a little problem, and okay, well, money can make the problem go away, and that's the vibe I'm getting here.
Not only can money make the problem go away, but when you're used to having money, you're also used to hiring people to do the job for you. You know, just like you go to a nice hotel and you pay them to do the room service and the massage and all that. You're just used to hiring somebody to make a problem go away. But that's what I was referring to in that first segment, Vinnie, when we were talking about the depravity. Those text messages were so bothersome. The fact that she called her ex-husband stupid, I get it. It's contentious. My issue is when we start talking about the Magic Act, and then they begin referring to the Disappearing Act. Can you make somebody shut up permanently? It's that kind of stuff that just speaks to her level of control. And if you're looking for motive in this, it's a double-edged motive here. It is a combination, in my opinion, of just absolute hatred and contention and custody. This is all about control. She's used to getting what she wants. She wants the problem to go away.
Mike, 3 defendants here. One has admitted everything, so it seems predictable when this moves forward how it's going to play out from the defendant's perspective. There's going to be some finger pointing going on here. So how do you see that issue in trying to make this is a conspiracy among 3 people versus like, 2 people or 1 person acting alone?
Yeah, I mean, he's still got a murder rap on him, and he's still going to spend the rest of his life likely in prison. So what does he really have to gain outside of the death penalty, which certainly would be motivation, I guess, to try to talk about things. But the thing that's going to happen here, in my opinion, Vinnie, is he's going to become the linchpin. He's going to be the one that's going to be able to decipher what it means to say funeral potatoes or casserole or jumpstart for your new business. Those kinds of things he's going to be able to talk to. We also know that they're probably going to release more information in the coming days. Have they forensically been able to uncover some things that are going to say exactly this person, because of this comment, is tied to this outcome? Again, I think the financial money train is going to, the trail is going to really paint a picture. He's going to be able to glue all the parts together. And then it's going to be up to a jury whether they believe him. But prosecutors use criminals every single day to twist and turn and go against other bad guys. And what we're after is the ultimate conspirators in this case.
Yeah, and this is a death penalty case. So yeah, everything is at stake here. There is a lot at stake. When I think about the relationships here, I come back to this relationship between Mario Fernandez and Shanna Gardner, and whether one or the other may turn on the other. I can't imagine that Shanna does anything but point the finger at Mario and point the finger at Henry, because, Erica, those are the 2 that have sort of a prior relationship in all of this.
They are the 2 that have the prior relationship. However, she is the one with the motive. You know, as a prosecutor, Vinnie, I'm sure you would drill down on this part. You would ask, Henry, did you have access to that court order? Did you have access to that sealed court order that gave the exact time frame of when he was going to be driving down that one-way road? I mean, really, what is this man's motivation for taking a life? It doesn't fit. And when something doesn't make sense, it's not true. He didn't go out and think this up on his own. She premeditated this, if that's, what we're talking here. Sounds like it. But this was a premeditated plan after 7 years of a nasty custody suit. And what really breaks my heart is that these kids who probably are suffering serious post-traumatic stress now have been ripped from their father's family completely, taken to another state, and then his paternal grandparents have to hire an attorney just to get supervised visits. This is vicious, this is cruel, and this is unfair to every victim in this case.
And you talk about the victim, Mike King, and we're looking at pictures of Jared Bridegan, obviously ready, willing, and able to do whatever he needs to do for his family. I mean, that's every indication, every conversation, all the research that I've done in this case always points in that direction. And they moved to Florida because one of the twins had a medical issue and had to be in a specific type of environment. So packed up, you know, everything, moved down to Jacksonville, and that's where they ended up. To me, that's the other part of the tragedy here is the children, Mike, and how that works. How that works into the whole case here.
And we have to keep them in mind. And you go back and you think about some of the behavior that's happened here. He isn't killed going to return the child home that he's taken out to dinner. He's killed when he has a child that's not hers, which also makes this a little bit intriguing. The other thing I think about a lot is that the fact that when we examine these cases and we look at behavior and the changes that occur in behavior, his behavior remains pretty consistent through the whole thing. His lifestyle is the same. His religion, it's hers that changes, and that always causes me concern.
Absolutely. Big thank you, Mike King, Erica Morris. Appreciate your time and insight. When we come back, we'll dive a little deeper into the possible motives here, and wait till I tell you something about that trust fund you won't believe.
From very, very early on, I felt, like, obviously I didn't have any evidence, but I felt that Mario Fernandez and Shanna Gardner would be involved somehow. So honestly, Henry Tenen was a surprise for me because I didn't know him.
Because it was them knowing his schedule and having known that he was going to take that narrow road and that he would have to move the tire. Is that what made you think that they were involved because he had just left her house?
That, and just the fact that he didn't have enemies. So unless it was completely random, the only two people he had trouble with were Mario and Shanna, to my knowledge.
But it wasn't random. This was not a robbery. This was not a child abduction. It was nothing like that. It was just a hit. The only crime committed there was the murder. There was no other reason for it. There was no argument. There wasn't road rage. There was no car accident. There's a tire that stops Jared Bridegan, and then out of the bushes comes Henry Tenen, the paid-for hitman who comes out and takes Jared Bridegan's life. So why would someone hire a hitman? Who does he have a problem with? Well, the only real angst in his life is with his ex, Shanna Gardner, and her continuous litigation of every single custody issue. Back to court, back to court, back to court, back to court, over and over and over again. Now, she was funded by money from a trust fund. But there's something else about this trust fund that you need to know tonight. Really important and connected to all of this, I believe, and prosecutors believe. Take a look. By 2022, and at the time of Bridegan's murder, Gardner and Fernandez Saldana were planning to divorce, even advising such to the twins' school. In reviewing financial records, investigators discovered the majority of Gardner's income came through an irrevocable trust that Gardner's parents funded. Fernandez Saldana is the listed trustee. The trust language provides, get ready folks, this is the big one, quote, when our daughter Shanna shall have no further legal entanglements with her ex-husband, Jared G. Bridegan, she may elect to serve as trustee. She doesn't take over her trust until all the legal issues with her ex-husband are done. So when did the legal issues with your ex-husband, when you have children together, end? Perhaps never? Perhaps never? At the earliest could be when the children are 18. But the potential is like never. So for her to become the trustee of this irrevocable trust that she was living off of, to control the money and be in charge, that had to end. And guess when it ended? When Jared Bridegan was shot and killed. That's not all. Gardner wanted to leave the state of Florida with her children. She's not from there. However, her dissolution decree prevented her from leaving the state permanently with her children without an agreement from Bridegan or a court order. With Bridegan's death, she became free to leave the state with her children, which she has done, and with no legal entanglements with her ex-husband, she now also can control her trust funds. She's single, living where she wants to live, controlling her money, and oh, by the way, also got rid of the husband. Fernandez is gone. They were divorcing. So now she's single, wealthy, with her kids. Is that a motive? Could that get into someone's mind to motivate them to take out your children's father and take a risk? Like, you have to think about this. Like, everyone who commits a murder or plots a murder has to know that there's just a slight chance that you could get caught. And to risk this life of luxury, where the only problem she had in her life was she had to agree to what to do with her children and she had to live in Florida. Is that enough? Let me bring in our experts. Joining us tonight, licensed mental health and nationally certified clinician specializing in trauma, child abuse, and neglect. Sharonda Brown is with us. Also joining us, clinical and forensic neuropsychologist, associate professor at Pepperdine University, and author of the book, The New Rules of Attachment, Dr. Judy Ho, and clinical and forensic psychologist, Dr. Leslie Dobson. Welcome to everyone. This is incredibly tragic, but it's an alleged murder for hire. The question is, these situations, these factors, could they and how could they motivate someone to commit the ultimate crime? Sharonda, I'll begin with you. This back and forth, this nonstop litigation, lack of complete control, could you see that as a motive for someone who has whatever they need at their fingertips? Trust fund babies have money.
Absolutely. I definitely see it as a motive, but I also think that prior to that, there was already a disdain there that made the motive more intense. It sounds like they really had this tumultuous, marriage that led to divorce, but it also sounds like she just really did not want to share. And if we want to pair in the fact that maybe he moved on and was happy, that also could have played a part in making the things that we saw in this legal document more intense, because people, more than anything, they don't want to see you happy when you have left them and moved on with someone else. So even that in of itself can be a motive prior to anything else coming into play.
Dr. Judy Ho, how does someone get there? How do you on the one hand want to be a mother for two children and at the same time allegedly want to commit cold-blooded murder of these same children's father? Children, I think everyone knows children tend to do better if they have a caring mother and a caring father. So how does someone get to that point? How is that possible?
Well, Vinnie, two factors: extreme compartmentalization and self-justification. So compartmentalizing the part of her that may be empathetic, may even be a decent mother. And that part is completely separate of this other part that apparently, according to one of the lead detectives in the case, was exchanging text messages repeatedly with her best friend saying, I want to get rid of him. This is how I'm going to do it. Basically concocting themes and going over it over and over again in her head. So this is something that is filling her thoughts. The other piece of it is that justification process. Well, this is what's good for all of us. Actually, this is what's best for the children. The children need to be living in a different place. It'll be better for their education. They'll be around a better environment. Who knows what she's telling herself and saying, I'm not the bad person here. I'm just trying to provide a better life for myself and for my children.
Let me ask you, Dr. Leslie Dobson, about the trust fund and the money. The parents put this clause in. Take me into the mind of the parents who are saying to their daughter, when our daughter shall have no further legal entanglements with her ex-husband, Jared Bridegan, she may elect to serve as trustee. Why would they do that?
It tells me right away they didn't trust him, or they didn't trust the perspective that she presented of him. But it worries me that the children are potentially going to be with them. So it's not a normal clause to have in a trust fund from parents, especially parents who have raised quite an entitled, narcissistic child.
Oh, that's putting it mildly, right? When we talk about the allegations here and what's happened. Let me ask you, Sharonda, this though. The other part is the control over the children. The only way she could leave the state of Florida was to get him out of the way. Which do you see as a potentially more powerful motive? Getting the money or leaving Florida and living wherever you want to live?
I think it's more so of leaving and being where you want to live. And moreover, not sharing your children with someone else. I think we keep discounting the fact that this man had another family, and she definitely did not want to be a part of that. She didn't want her children to be a part of that. So to take your children and say, hey, these are my kids, I want to raise them my way without you and their potential stepmother, that is definitely powerful. I think it definitely would have been more of a motivating factor for her to be somewhere else where he was not involved, but because the intent was to hurt him. So what better way than to hurt him than to take away his children, especially if she sees that they are loved and he loves them as well, which is also why she's not, or didn't want them to have anything to do with his family.
When we come back, we're going to continue our discussion with our experts, and we're going to talk about what's going on with Jared's children.
One of the most successful true crime TV shows ever.
This is crazy.
Now has a new home on America's original true crime obsession, 48 Hours on Court TV. Coming up next on Court TV.
She could hear the bat hitting her father.
Michael was under the influence of Courtney.
Michael Moore is not the person who killed my father.
Accomplice to Murder with Vinnie Politan. Sunday night, 8/7 Central. Only on Court TV.
I felt, thoughts will come to my mind, especially with the girls, that I know is him trying to help me parent, even though he's not here. So knowing that he's here, he's fighting for us, keeps me going, we're gonna fight for you. We're gonna get some answers because you deserve it. And our family deserves to know.
Kristen Bridegan, Jared's widow, speaking about, I guess, his spirit helping her through moments. She also spoke to us about how Jared handled the contentious relationship with his ex, Shanna, and how he tried to protect the children from being exposed to any of that. Take a listen.
The relationship between us and his ex-wife was not cordial. Our communications were always in writing because there was not mutual trust between the two households. Unfortunately, are kind of stuck in the middle of that. Jared and I tried so hard not to involve them, not to use them as messengers, not to talk poorly about their mother in front of them. And unfortunately, that favor was not returned. And that was really hard on Jared. He sent so many messages just pleading, like, leave the kids out of it, because his priority was his kids, and that is what mattered to him.
Dr. Judy Ho, the children obviously always in the middle of it, and the question is, how did the parents handle that? Well, how does that get handled now? I mean, things have gotten to a much more extreme circumstance. Jared is no longer alive. The children are across the country with grandparents. Mom is locked up. What are your thoughts about the twins tonight?
Well, the separation is definitely going to have an effect. I know that young children, oftentimes we don't realize how much they know, but even from a very young age, they know when there's discord. They know when their parents are fighting. They know when the household is not right. And so right now, the children are probably just trying to figure out how to regulate themselves without their two primary attachment figures available to them at this moment, with their biological mother being out, their biological father dead, and even the other parents that are in the picture, the other spouses, right? None of them are available. It's really, really hard for children, especially as they're building attachment bonds, learning how to trust, learning what's safe and what's not. All of that's going to be off. And I really hope that the children are getting some level of support, not just from the grandparents, but hopefully from the community around them. And if there's more concerning signs, maybe they need to see a professional earlier rather than later.
Another aspect of what's taking place is that Jared's parents have no or very little access to their grandchildren. Up on the screen, they've actually started a GoFundMe, because obviously they're fighting people with a lot of money. Help the Bridegan family with their court battle. Gaylord and Joanne Bridegan are now seeking full guardianship of the twins. The case is going to trial. The cost, $50,000. Let's help them win this case. They've raised about half of the money so far. But Dr. Leslie Dobson, let's talk about, it's ultimately what's in the best interest of the children always. And this is such a difficult situation for them. What role do you believe that Jared's parents should have in their lives?
I personally feel like they should have a significant role and sole custody of those children. And it is because there are half siblings that can start to normalize and ground those children back into a realistic family. And based on that trust fund alone in that one sentence, something is off here. We need to secure the mental health of those children until this is fully understood.
Sharonda Brown, I know you specialize in handling and dealing with this trauma. How about the trauma for the twins? How about the trauma for the 2-year-old who was there when her father was shot and killed?
Sometimes I don't think the 2-year-old will remember as much as the twins will remember. And moreover, twins, or I guess the older children, remember who their safe parents are. They know who their safe parents are. No matter what happens, they know the parent that they can go to and feel comfortable and get love and get support. And if the mom was using the children as pawns, they probably didn't have the safest connection with her. So I'm sure that there's going to be some level of emotional safety that they're going to have, even with being with her parents and having the absenteeism of the safer parents that they probably deemed. So there's going to be some work that has to be done with them normalizing how to feel safe so that they can move forward with even grief. So we're talking about a state of shock that these children are in. Moreover, trying to understand the world around them and trying to figure out, okay, where are the best parts of me? Children gravitate towards who they know they can count on. And if they're in a foreign space at this time, and I'm not saying that their grandparents or their mom's dads are not safe for them, but you also have to think about the things that they have been told, how they may have treated the children, and the level of control that their mom wanted to have. So I think there's going to be multiple layers to their process. 1, feeling safe. 2, trying to understand what's happening around them. And 3, trying to connect and hold on to something so that they can have a sense of normalcy going forward.
Dr. Judy Ho, going forward, children grow. Children get older. Children these days, they're all going to have a phone. They're all going to have a computer. At some point, these children are going to be very curious about everything that's happened, and it's been documented. How do they handle that? How do they get prepared for that? What is the best advice for these children?
Well, I really think that if possible, they should be involving a mental health professional earlier in the process to help process these things so that they're not seeing this news or hearing it from classmates, even being bullied or teased about it, and then having to try to sort this out themselves with people around them who, of course, have different agendas and opinions because they're going to be family members and they've chosen their sides. So I think it is important for a neutral mental health professional to walk them through this, because it's more likely than not that these children are going to suffer some form of post-trauma symptoms, whether that meets full criteria for PTSD or they're just going to have this sense of not feeling safe and not feeling right and not knowing where they belong, or trying to understand that perhaps one of their parents may have killed the other one. These are huge, heavy topics, and these children really need a lot of help to be able to process that and to grow and develop into strong, resilient people.
Dr. Leslie Dobson, how about interaction with mom? She's locked up, but phone calls, FaceTime calls, I don't know if she's permitted visitation. How should that be handled?
It does seem like we're close to understanding what happened, and my preference would be that they have no communication with mom until we understand who was involved and who took the life of dad.
Sharonda, at some point, I've got to think the children will come to their own conclusions about it. And as they become adults, if she's convicted, they'll have a choice on whether or not to visit mom. But this is also a death penalty case. It's possible, if she's found guilty, and again, it's a big if, right? But if she's found guilty, they could also choose to send her to death row. How about, from the child's perspective, that scenario?
I'm sure it's going to be hard to prepare for if that becomes their reality, but they're going to love their mother regardless. And I know that the public will have a hard time trying to understand that because of the allegations, but they are connected to her. They're going to love her regardless, good or bad. And they're probably going to want to see her. They're probably going to want to spend time with her. And that's going to be a part of the grief process, and hopefully on the people who are going to take care of them to help them understand and to be accepting of the fact that these children are still going to want to love their mother, moreover, because they already have a parent who is gone. So in their minds, hey, we have one parent left. And they're going to find a way to forgive her, and they're going to find a way to make amends. And that's one of the things that I try to explain to people in this field. Even if a child has been abused or if they've seen abuse, they're going to want the love of that biological parent regardless.
Dr. Judy Ho, before we run out of time here, about 40 seconds or so. How about for Shanna Gardner? You go from trust fund child to now behind bars. How's that adjustment?
Well, if she did what she is accused of, I'm sure that there is an element of surprise for her, because I believe that if she really did what she is being accused of, she thought she was going to get away with it. She thought she was going to be smart enough and she was going to outsmart everybody, like many convicted criminals end up being when you interview them and find out about their thought process. So I think it's quite a shock. And I think that it still probably hasn't settled in for her, and she's probably still holding on to this life that she dreamt of before all this happened.
Well, I want to thank all three of you. Your time is literally valuable, and we thank you so much for giving us some insight into all this. Sharonda Brown, Dr. Judy Ho, Dr. Leslie Dobson. Hopefully we'll see you again really, really soon. Thank you so much. Speaking of children, you know we do it every night. Please take a look at your television screens. We have a missing child tonight. This is Charlie Chanel Williams. Charlie's just 13 years old, has braces. Missing from Nashville, Tennessee since July 1st. So this is what I need you to do. Take a look at Charlie's picture. And if you see Charlie, pick up the phone, make the call. You can call 911. You can call 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the Nashville Metro Police in Tennessee. Make the call, make a difference. Let's see if we can get Charlie to a safe place tonight. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great night. And as always, please don't forget to hug the kids.